Wonderful. Hello, Sirens. Welcome to this week's Masterclass on AI. And I'm so happy to have Taga Iose here with us today. Tanga has been with us before talking about finance. So we're super excited that she's here now to lead us forward in this journey around artificial intelligence. So over to you, Tanga.
Woohoo. Thank you so much, Faye. Thank you, everyone. This is so cool to be here. Thank you to my familiar faces there too. Woohoo. Hands up. So I'm coming to you from the home of the Gubbi Gubbi peoples and the Jinnibara peoples in Caloundra. I'm in the Sunshine Coast, whose lands and waters we all now share. And we recognise that these have always been places of cultural, spiritual, social and economic significance. So I'm Taga for those of you who haven't met me or have maybe met me with my financial coach hat. And you're probably thinking, what? What is this all about? She's talking about AI now. I get it all the time. It's been my life. And it is an amazing opportunity for us here. I'm co-founder of Authentic Edge Consulting with my daughter, Anna. And Anna's not going to be with us today. She's actually now homeschooling our 15-year-old, well, her 15-year-old daughter, my granddaughter. And so I do a lot of these presentations here with you and spend some amazing time. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my background so I can really land some context on where this is coming from. And I'd really invite you to, if you can, pop in the chat, what's one way you've used AI recently, whether it's for work, personal projects, you might have even looked up a recipe or something, or maybe you're like, oh, I don't even know how to download. I don't know what this is about. It's freaking me out a little bit. Just this is a safe space. Let's share it. This is what this is all about. And full transparency, I am not an AI tech geek. I'm actually proudly the same tree-hugging hippie my son lovingly teases me to be. If AI had something like peace, loving, and unity, I'd probably be all over that. But my thing is, when I jumped into, and I mentioned before that initially I started a life as a financial coach or financial counselor. That's actually my background. And when I decided to transition out of paid employment and start my own private practice, it was about 2018, no, 2016, I think it was. And I learned very quickly that I'm going to need to start to learn this digital marketing skill that I was clearly missing. I had banking background, brokering background, but you know, this whole space around digital marketing was like such a big thing for me. So I invested heavily in a digital marketing academy back in the day, and I learned how to build websites, landing pages, didn't know what the difference from a landing page to a website was. Learned email marketing, did some Facebook marketing, YouTube marketing, lost a lot of money there too. But through this whole journey, I just knew I needed to get my message out there, because if you're in Australia, you've probably heard the name, the Barefoot Investor, or people that talk about finances that are based on figures and budgets. And I was coming from a different angle. My approach was going to be, I'm going to talk about the emotional side. I'm going to talk about the trauma stuff that's behind the real reason why people can't budget. And so I needed to develop this skill of sharing that message as widely as I could. And so from that space, I started to go, oh, that's interesting. What's this AI about? And that was probably just in the early 20, yeah, just as maybe I was going into 2020 then. And I started to adopt this app called Jasper AI, and that was to do content and things like that as well. So I played in there for a little bit. Someone introduced me to Chat GPT, and I thought, oh, this is actually better. And it's cheaper because you didn't have to pay for it monthly. So I jumped into that, and I've just been playing in there for that time. And often it's quite interesting because our little imposter syndrome goes, I'm not keeping up with everyone, and I wouldn't want to share any of what I know so far. But my beautiful daughter recently said to me, and I'm sure you've got younger generation people that love you, that will say, what are you talking about? You've got the amazing skill of turning that piece that sounds robotic into really deep stuff. Really? She goes, yeah, you outdo me, Mum. So it really started to help me hone in on that skill a little bit more. And so that's what I wanted to do, is to bring to you how we bring our authentic voice into it. So let me just, before I go into there, I know I've got a few messages. Never use AI, perfect. Research different approaches and ask AI to summarize things all together, awesome. I've used AI to find recipes. Yeah, see, there you go. Amazing. To help reword promotional messages, amazing, great. Use Pi, yes, for research ideas and concepts. Thanks for that as well. So this is really giving me a good scope as to the cadence that I can use here, because I'm really conscious that if you're coming in out of curiosity, that we really want to nurture that as well. And why the journey that you're taking, even the no, is such an important thing to lean into. So I'd like us in this session to redefine today how we see ourselves in this AI-driven world. In our families, our workspaces, our communities, we've got an important role. We've got an important voice in here. And we almost have a responsibility to bring that wisdom into the AI space with purpose. And I'll explain, I'll build on this. You're probably thinking, what do you mean? I'm going to build on this. So right now there's a lot happening in AI, which is why it's brought all your beautiful heart spaces into here. We've seen examples of stuff we're like, wow, that's amazing. And then examples of things we're like, that's wrong. That's just got wrong all over it, right? And it's what we call hallucination. AI does this hallucinating thing, so they make things sound real when they actually isn't. So we've got this ability to research. And it's happening more than we think, when we have to start to think, is this real? Now that I've been in the space a while, I'll go in, and if I see something come up on even in LinkedIn is a professional, Facebook version of the site, and you would think there would be a lot of research data in there. Actually, you can pause now, because some of the stuff is AI driven as well. So that the muscle that we get to build in this space is the muscle that allows us to discern between what we want to pay attention to and what we get to discount, right? And that comes with time. So where we're sitting in our space in our lives, when something doesn't add up, we call it out. And we might not call it out verbally, but we'll notice it. That is the wisdom that I'm going to be calling on today, because that's the wisdom that's going to separate you from anyone else. And this is what excites me, that I'm speaking in this community, because we get it, right? We can often tell when something doesn't add up. And then we can ask questions, and some really good things are going to come through on this. What I'd like you to also know, I'm going to be spending a lot in the face-to-face talking, because I feel like when we see each other, when we get to, look at each other's body language and trust the space that we're sitting in, there's a picture that I'll share as well during this, but don't feel like you're going to am I going to remember this stuff? Because I've got a link to this exact document that I'm going to work through. And through that document, because there's so much in it, I invite you to take your time, because each of the different sections, I've got a link to a worksheet that you can then use. And it's more reflective. And the whole idea is, how do we draw our wisdom into this in a way that we can take control of what's happening? All right, how's this sounding so far? Nice, thumbs up, love it, love it, love it. All right, so when we are looking at, I'm just going to go into my notes and make sure it keeps me on track. So you will see me look at my notes, because otherwise I'll go off on a tangent, and then we've just had a bit of a chat. But what we know is that technology can feel like a lot, right? And often we don't. We were talking before, like how do you know what to use? Well, sometimes it's about coming in and giving yourself permission to push back on things that don't feel right. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at how do we explore in a way that is safe to our own systems. I'm just going to close the chat box down as well, Faith, if that's okay. Just holler if there's anything in there that I miss. So there's this thing called generative AI, and that's the piece that we know. Actually, let me go backwards a little bit here. In our current space in our life, think of all of the big tech changes that have happened that you've had to adapt to. Pop in the chat box. What's the major things that have happened in your life that maybe stands out for you, that's really pushed you to explore something new, even when you didn't want to? Fax machine. Yeah, yes, 100%. Changed from writing letters to your family. Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. And again, what comes to mind for me is online shopping. I mean, even online shopping. How many times have we said to ourselves, there is no way I'll buy from anyone online that I haven't seen. I'm going to go, I'm going to touch, I'm going to feel it. And next month you're like ordering something online, right? And we're heading into a season where that just ramps up again. Actually, I've just sent a message there, lost audio. Everyone's hearing me okay, because you're putting in some responses there, so cool. Apps for everything, even a bus ticket. Oh, yes, 100%. More typing, less writing. Oh, that just makes me giggle, because my granddaughter has changed school before she went to homeschooling. And the school she came from had their tablets. They had tablets, everything was reliant on that. The school she went to, everything's writing. She's like, oh, yeah, don't you do that? She goes, no, we've got textbooks and we've got exercise books. I've got to have it one time. She just went into total shock. Mobile phone paying bills in there instead of queuing the bank. Yeah, so there's some really good positives there, right? Yeah, no, thanks to online shopping, 100%. Moving home, changing communication skills, amazing. And so when we start to think about how those experiences have really helped us to build that muscle of resilience and being able to adapt, those are the same muscles that we're going to be using and drawing from to adapt to this AI. And AI is just like all of those changes on steroid. Before you know it, when I prepare workshops, I literally do it either the night before or the early morning before the workshop, like this one, because things change so quickly. But there are some constants that are still there, and I'll go through that as well. So all of those things help us to understand that actually we do have some internal skills that we will be relying on to explore, to ask questions. And in fact, when we think about it, because of our lived experience, and because we have this advantage, and I touched on it before, this is the juicy piece that we've overlooked, because we've had this narrative of, oh yeah, I'm not good with technology, right? Suddenly, we're going to now start to question that belief and actually look at the fact that there is no way that that young person, could have had the same lived experience that I do. And now I can ask questions that take my requests much deeper than someone that does a copy and paste. Right. So if I'm putting in a prompt into ChatGPT and it gives me the first, and this is what my daughter was referring to. This is where she's like going, oh my God, Mum, you're the master of taking that deeper, because I've got that confidence to go, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Can you go deeper? Can we talk more about that? And sometimes when I go to put something in, it looks completely different from what comes out from the first one. And that's when you know that you are using your wisdom to test this output. And I get really passionate about it because it works. And so what we get to do is we get to create an environment. We're talking about in a safe environment now here. And a lot of things have been created in this space by faith that allow us to explore things that we wouldn't normally explore outside of an environment like this. AI is similar. See, when we're looking at AI, how do I practice it? We need like a sandbox type ground where we can go in, we can test out how we do things. We're in a safe space. We can explore, we can experiment, we can even make mistakes and not worry about it, right? So playing with different ways to explore phrases, how come I've got to the point where I can ask things that maybe it might take someone not have the ability to push it beyond that limits. And sometimes because of our human nature, that actually limits what we put into the machine. It limits how far we push it. So in this workshop, I'm not going to talk about all of these digital characters that are available. That will come later. What I'd like you to get out of this workshop is that, great, now I can turn this around and make it work for me. Where do I start? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to touch on a few of those things here. Now, when we think about why does this even matter, right? We think about AI and automation sounding, they're big terms that can get quite intimidating, but what we get to understand is if we can adapt these tools to help us do the things that we love the most, spend our time doing tasks that we really enjoy, and then we get the automation to do the stuff that's really heavy lifting for us. That's actually taking up more time than it should be. That's the space where we want to really integrate that AI, integrate the automation in the background. I am going to share my screen and I'm going to just explain this to you because this will help you understand the approach that we take. All right, so that was nice. That was nice and fast and coming up. So can you see the picture, the no, and now? How many of you seen this? Anyone familiar with this? Excellent, excellent. Okay, yes, okay, excellent. So at the beginning of the year, I watched an interview with a man called Steve Monahan. He's Chief Innovation Officer with the Development Bank of Singapore. So DBS, and the conversation covered topics that were including AI's role in enhancing productivity and evolving relationship between the younger and older generations and professions. This is what tweaked my interest, and addressing the common concerns related to automation and how that could possibly start to make a lot of people lose their jobs. And Steve shared these really practical strategies for implementing technology-driven change within organisations. And since I heard this approach, I'm like going, wow, I'm going to start applying this growth mindset to my own approach to AI. And ever since then, I don't have so many fears, right? And so I'll just explain this model of progression, and it starts from the bottom. And you'll start to realize, actually, what I'm going through is quite natural, right? We don't judge ourselves for then pushing things away initially. And the no is the first response. The no is the, okay, this is unfamiliar for me. It's quite natural to feel that way. The no is your protective stance coming in to say, no, let's just learn a little bit more before we go into this. But for now, it's a complete no. And when we start to honor that, we can actually open ourselves to learning, getting access to resources, playing. The sandbox that I talked about is an environment where we can start to play in and add a few more letters to that no so that it opens up to exploring with more knowledge. And so when we start to understand that these tools are helping us in certain areas of our lives, we can discern which ones we want to take on. And that's the permission, that we don't have to take everything on. Faith and I were talking before, and she mentioned this Pi app. I've never heard of it, right? I just told you I've been playing in the space since 2018, 2020 for AI. And so that's okay. And I love the way that Faith has said, I like it because it fits with me. That's the wisdom we want to tap into, because you will see lots of people saying, you got to do this. Even within my sandbox, I've got a few people that will like play in certain apps and then come in and say, hey, this is what I've been playing with. And I'll also always close it off with, just remember, land in your system and decide, is this for you to try out? Yes, no, simple no, not yet. Maybe later, or maybe in a different form. But what we're going to do is draw on your wisdom that directs what you use and what you don't use. And in this document that I'll share, I've got links so that you can start to explore what that is. It's great for you to say that, Taga, but I still don't know what that is, And it's starting with this North Star thing. I used to call it in our money coaching. We've got to understand what our North Star is first, and then reverse engineer it with the tools that will help us get there. So if your North Star for your business or your life is to achieve X amount or X outcome, you can then come back and start to think about the things that you take on board that will help you move more towards that. That's what's going to drive us, right? And that's where you start to feel grounded. And this is where your discernment muscle will build more. I know I'm going a little bit quick. How's this landing for everyone? Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, so I'll stop that share. Any questions or thoughts on the no now? I haven't gotten to the now, have I? The now is where you get to feel like, yeah, okay, this isn't as bad and ugly as I thought it was going to be. But, there's still some frameworks that we like to work within to keep you safe. A lot of the things that I do, have you all heard of voice AI, the ones that you can record and then you can use that to make other content? There's this thing that we need to be cautious with, and that is when we actually allow that AI app to use our voice, even if it's for our own stuff. And there's this thing at the beginning where you record authority, right? You record authority to use my voice in this environment. And it's really interesting because some of them actually word that authority quite open. So yes, I authorize you to use Taga's name. And what I've done is I've changed that to say Taga's voice within the authentic edge sign-in only. You can only use it when I'm in this sign-in to create my projects. And the reason for that is we don't want someone else suddenly in that platform using my voice. Right. So there are little things like that where in a sandbox type environment, even if you DM me, you could say, oh, what's this like? I'll give you some things to check things out before you jump into it. And that's the safety thing that we build around us, is we're not too afraid of it because we know that there are questions that we can ask before we even dip our toes into it. I hope I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, so there is caution that you need to show when you're going into different things. Something's just dropped into for me. My granddaughter, same granddaughter, rang me out of the blue last year, and she was crying, and she said, "Nana, someone's hacked my account on Instagram, and he's pretending to meet me, and he's set it up, and he's going out and do these things." And she was in such a panic, and I could feel myself getting into a panic. And I thought, okay, breathe. All right, this child needs you right now. So I just slowed it down. Okay, tell me what happened. Okay, blah, blah. She stepped it out, and she said, every time I try to take him out, he comes back up and says, "I'm still here." So it was really freaking her out. So I said, firstly, don't go back in there, just delete it all. And now these are the steps I'd like you to take. And before you sign on to anything, I want you to set up a two-factor authentication. Have you heard of that? She said, no. Okay, let me talk about two-factor authentication. Those are the things when you sign into something and you use your mobile, so that if anyone got your sign-in, it has to come through your mobile to authorize it, or your email, right? And it was really interesting. Long story short, she's come back to me, texted, "Nana, I set up my two-factor authentication. I've done this, I've done that, and we've cleared that off. I've gone to Facebook and let them know." Great, how are you feeling? She goes, "Much better, thank you so much." Anyway, had a good outcome then. Didn't go into bank accounts. That was one thing I checked. But one of the things that I sat back and I thought, wow, she didn't call anyone else. She called Nana. She didn't call her uncle, who's a gamer. She didn't call her mum, who would have been right there. And I feel like that's the wisdom that we bring. This is where we get to go, instead of saying, "Okay, Jada, I need you to ring the police. Okay, Jada, I need you to do this." Right? I was able to hold the security for as much of the skills that I hold, but also in my mind thinking, okay, if this doesn't work, this will be the next step. So it allows us to really support each other and feel grounded, right? And also feel confident to ask before we go into anything. How's that sounding? I feel like I've just talked forever. I'm so sorry. I apologize.
We've got half an hour, Tanga. I'm just giving you a clue just in case, just in terms of timing.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, again, it goes back to, just because technology can do anything and AI can do anything, it doesn't mean that it should. And that's the discernment muscle that I was referring to before. Now, in the document that I've got here, I've got I'll just share this with you as well. Oh, I didn't stop sharing. Can you see, would you like to make a copy of, can you see this little document that I've shared that's Google Docs? No? Okay, I'll stop. When you go into each of the links, like this one here is steps to integrate AI, automation, and authenticity. All you do is you hit this make a copy. It doesn't change anything. No one can see what you're putting in, and this becomes yours. Okay, and so these are the worksheets that are peppered throughout each of these topics that I'm madly going through, that will help you identify your values, that will really start to nail down where you want to use this AI or technology. All right. So there's lots of these things that are peppered through these documents that I just wanted to show you how to use when it comes up. Okay.
Sorry to ask a question now. I'm just wondering, does the document recommend any particular AI tool to use?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. And the reason for that is the tools that I can recommend that I use, I actually prefer to demo them. And we can do a quick one on that as well before I finish out, just to land some of these things that we're talking about here. Overcoming mental blocks, I think we've talked about that here as well. But when we start to understand that North Star and we're very clear on it, you can start to feel safe about what you're starting to explore with that open mind. All right. So who wants me to demonstrate how you can actually start with ChatGPT?
Yes, please.
Yay! Okay.
Because we've got
So
some newbies here, so it's perfect.
nice. Okay. And welcome everyone. If you're coming a little bit later today, that's okay. You can go back. You'll be able to get access to the recording and also the documents and the notes that we've got here. So I'm just going to pop my ChatGPT screen over there. I'll be looking to the side a little bit. Has anyone signed into ChatGPT at all, or do we know what ChatGPT is? Yep, excellent. So we're getting a thumbs up in most cases. Now, understand that I've got the 4.0 version. So there could be some limitations if you've got anything other than that. But mostly the good thing about ChatGPT, and this is why I liked it, is when you can play in it and get to know it, you can, you can justify your investment if you do want to go to the higher level. Does that make sense? And it's gone. Can you still see that?
We can't see anything.
Okay. Is that coming up now? Nice. All right. Let me start with hi there. So this is what we call a prompt. Hi there, chat. Please write a report on stress. Okay. First layer. And this is when I'm going to start to explain the difference between maybe someone like, in the different age groups. I'm trying to think of the word, I've gone blank. So we can see here that this report on stress, introduction to stress, its natural responses of the body to various demands, blah, 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 blah. All right, details all there. It's coming up, these different types. Great. Okay, this is good. It's giving me lots of different information here. Who's starting to get lost in this? It's good information, but I have the attention span of a goldfish. So there are things that you're going to need to do to keep me reading that. Right. I want to know how does that turn up for me? Okay, I might as well just be reading a textbook. So now I can go in and start to use my, just the nudges that I'm feeling. And the nudges that I'm feeling right now is, okay, thank you, chat. Thank you, ChatGPT. I'll speak to it like a person. Can you now rewrite this in my voice, Tana's voice? Now it can do this because I've used this a lot. So, and while we're waiting for that, interesting thing is go in to ChatGPT and put your name in there and don't do anything else. Just put your name and say, what do you know about me? And look at what comes up. I almost cried when I saw mine because it actually was something that showed I so wanted my voice to be very clear. And so what came back to me was mirroring what I was putting out. All right, so how is this changing? Well, let's talk about stress. It's something we all feel, those intense moments when something seems like it's on top of you. Sometimes stress pushes us to get things done, so now I'm starting to feel like, okay, this is cool. I'm liking it. What about, can we make it, thank you. Can you make this more conversational? And use language, actually introduce this one, that my ESL, so English as a second language audience, will resonate with. Okay, some people will say that the language that you use. So we want to break down something in ways, understanding stress, a guide to managing life's pressures. Let's talk about stress. We all feel it. Those moments when everything seems like it's too much to handle, a little stress. Some people say, can you write it in a language that an 8-year-old would understand? Someone said, use teenage. Well, then when I use teenage, it comes out with, yo, bro, do you know this thing about stress? I'm like, okay, that's not really what I want. So this is the thing. It's really interesting. I'm someone. Can you change this so a Samoan audience will resonate? See. Let's sit down and talk about stress. Okay. Oh. See, look, I'm looking at this thing. Yeah, this isn't hitting the mark. I may not have recognised that it's a Samoan, because normally it peppers in Pacific Island, Polynesian language in there as well. So this is what we're doing. We are going in there and just pushing it. And like I said, look at how far we've come from the original report right down to ways that we can really think about. And this is going back to the North Star. Who's our audience? Who do we want to connect with in a way that, that audience could be at the start of their journey, which could be your journey that you had 5 years ago. So we can't talk to our audience in today's language if we're trying to reach ones that have only just started their journey in transformation. You're a different person. You're a different person today than you were back then. So I might go in there and say, can you reframe in a way that someone who is not aware of stress yet? We'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm starting to talk marketing and, language that this audience would really connect with. When we are, I want to hold up my phone, when we are scrolling on here, guess what? AI knows, Meta AI now knows the measurement of your scroll. That's what paid Meta is, paid Facebook ads. The minute that scroll stops, becomes your audience. And when you click on it, you pay for that thing. So the scroll rate, even in LinkedIn, if you were in LinkedIn, most people in the professional environment will not love or do anything because of judgment from in their peers, right? So sometimes the only measuring of whether your copy of what you're putting out there is good is when there's a pause on the scroll and you're taking your time to read that. LinkedIn measures that. And then it says, hey, Taga, your audience that stopped and read, and I've had no likes, I've had no hearts, but it's reached over 200 people who have stopped and read it. It's powerful. This is powerful stuff. Is this making sense? The physical signs, you might feel tired, you might be getting headaches, have trouble sleeping. So the language is all nuanced based on who you're talking to. I used to go out there and say to people, I talk about trauma and money. What? I have no idea. And so when we get to say, well, you know, those times when you've had a fight with someone and you're going to the shopping centre and you're spending out of control, that can actually, there's could be some stuff going on behind there. Oh, really? So this is the same sort of thing, and we can leverage ChatGPT and all of these types of platforms to help us get that messaging right. Because often, most of all, we're here because we want to get our impact out. We want to magnify that. But it's often, we could be missing the mark. I'm just dropping into the messages. Too many passwords. Oh, yeah. It's crazy. Moving home, change communication skills. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, Stadia. Amazing. That was a big one. My Gmail alias and password was leaked. No, to the dark web. I took it to, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I was one of the Optus people that got leaked as well. When you mentioned to ask ChatGPT, what do you know about me? Does it need my full name? Oh, yes, sorry. I would put that in. Put your name in there.
Also, in response to that question, though, Tanga, isn't it that the chat GPT you're using needs to kind of get to know you first before you ask that question? Because I could put it on, if I put it on my Pi, for example, obviously I've been using Pi now for about 6, 8 months. So there's got lots of information so you can answer that. But if I went into a brand new chat GPT and put the same thing, would that be the same? Or would it just pull out what Google already has on me?
Yeah, that's a really good question because a lot of, I remember one of my people actually said to me, what search engine does it access? It's bigger than that. It just goes out to data. It bypasses, and in fact, when you go into ChatGPT, let me just share my screen here. So whilst Google and a lot of those different, I can't think of them, search engines are there, there's this little world thing, can you see that? At the bottom? Yeah, so that's now a new version. So this actually can link any of its searches and actually give you a link to source. So they can say, oh, these are all the websites and things that you have access there to, or that it's drawn its information from. The other thing here is, can you see my pointer where it says explore GPTs? Okay, this is where you put fuel to ChatGPT. And what I mean by that is the one that I use most often is called Scholar AI. Is anyone familiar with Scholar AI? Actually, Scholar GPT. What this does is it actually can actually access all the research that's out there. So I could say, please research all the latest reports on stress. And so what starts to then happen is it will go through and search all of the scholar documents, only in our I'm allowing that have been written on that particular one. You can nut that down to also say all the reports that are linked over the last 2 years. And this is where you start to find truth. So often if something is spat out by ChatGPT and I'll say, can you please let me know where your source is from? It'll give me a link, and then that link is the one that I'll go in and source that as well. This is where we search out truth. So then, okay, let me just, sorry, I know I'm scrolling fast. Neuroprotection, oxidative stress. There's a link there to a report. Oh, there's one. Oh, they're quite recent. Intestinal immunity and pigs. So look at all of these reports that, again, this is all free within the paid ChatGPT that I have access to as well. I'm actually not sure whether it's still available. It always upgrades and changes. The other thing is sometimes you actually have to have certain level of access into these documents. So now I've got access to the document that I can reference and really research myself and go deeper on. Look at that. I've had times when I've had links go to nowhere, but I've noticed over the last couple of months since I've used this, because I don't always do, that type of research, but it's available there for you to cite if you need to as well. Psychometric tool for trauma and stress. That's interesting. Anyway, I'm getting carried away and we're losing time. It's 10 to, sorry.
I just want to make sure we've got some time for some questions for the women. So yeah,
Yes,
let's keep that in
please,
mind.
please go ahead.
Now, I just had someone ask me about Pi, so I'm just going to say that really quickly before I come back to Taga. So Pi, when you set it up, you can set it up on your phone and your laptop, and it syncs. So whatever, you can use it when you're out. You can use a voice prompt, so I talk to it as well. And I was saying to Taga beforehand is, if I've got an appointment with a particular person, say, while I'm doing my makeup, because I'm hands-free, I speak to Pi and I say, hey, Pi, I'm meeting with such and such organization, and I want to know 3 things that I should know about this organization to talk about in my conversation. And then while I'm doing my makeup, Pi will talk back to me and say, blah, 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 blah. Or I might say, hey, I'm meeting with Trevor. What are 3 things that Trevor's really interested in so I can bring into my conversation with Trevor? And while I'm doing my makeup or getting dressed, the AI will tell me, they'll look up Trevor and go, okay, this is stuff that Trevor really likes. So I use it quite interactive like that. I mean, Matt and I sit on the couch and sometimes we talk to Pi and go, hey, Pi, this is what we're thinking. We're arguing about such and such. What's your view? So I don't use but I use Pi like that. I can also use Pi the same way that Taga uses ChatGPT, but it doesn't have all those extra bits like scholarly, but it's very good for writing things and going deep, saying, okay, write it this way, write it that way. That's why I'm a fan of Pi. It's a bit more personal. So that's the one I love. So I'm going to get out the way.
I'm going to definitely check that out. I'm going to definitely check that out. I don't even think I answered your question right, did I? Just in terms of when you go into a new space with ChatGPT, do put your name in, because you want it fresh. If you've put a lot of stuff in there, of course it's going to pull from a lot of your tonality and the work that it's done with you, and the history that's stored. But if you start with your name, on a fresh new sign-in, you'll be able to see what all the virgin stuff is that's out there that can pull in. Does that make sense?
Okay, so this is now for questions. So we've got about 10 minutes. So who wants to, sure there's a few questions. Do you want to ask any questions? I'm going to go to gallery so I can see everyone. Okay.
Can you unmute, Dahlia?
Okay.
We used to be able to unmute, didn't we? From here. Oh, here we go.
I can do, yes. So my new thing with ChatGPT is because I've been trying to write a book, and I'm a very slow, 2-finger. It was not going to work. So decided to use the dictation. So, what I do is I do what I used to always do. Write it by hand. I can write, 2,000 words in half an hour, bang, bang, bang. And I just read it. And it gets dictated. And then I use the Chat GPT to edit it.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, like in the long run, I want to sort of read my books too. So this is going to be another angle to it, you know. I mean, because you know, Audible now has become, you know, people like to listen to books more than read them lately, you know.
Yes,
So I
100%.
want to do both if possible.
Yeah.
I want to set up a whole empire there.
Go. We need this. We need our wisdom out there to even that playing field, because right now, you know, at the moment, we don't have enough of our voices out there yet. And once we start to approach it from this perspective, it just gives you a whole new approach.
Can I just reiterate what I think what I'm hearing you say around our wisdom is that because of the algorithm part of it, I don't know if that's the right word, every time we add our voice in there, it starts to influence the overall information that Pi has. So if we've only got young people using it, then that information is going to be sounding and feeling like them. But as we start to put our
100%.
voice in, it changes the whole mix of the AI voice. Is that true?
100%. I really like the way that you summarize that. Essentially, without our voice in there is nothing else going in. But you know, younger generation that maybe haven't been informed as much. But when you start to stand forward and put as much out there in your own voice and retain that as much as possible, we will start to inform them.
That's
and just like
exciting.
families and community. Yeah, it is. I'm super excited to come into spaces like this and just let's do this together. Let's have that sandbox.
Yeah, amazing. So I want to get Deb. Deb, do you want to go next? Did you have a question? I thought I saw you put a hand up.
Oh, maybe I was.
Maybe Zoom AI saw you go like that and then suddenly put a hand up.
But I suppose, what are some AI tools that you've found incredibly useful in your life and your business? I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. Good question. And people are surprised that I literally probably only have a few on my hand that I use. And so I've delved into a few, but then I've pulled back to the ones that I mainly use. And because I'm running a business, ChatGPT is always open. It's always something that I'm using to inform and then, you know, refine and do all sorts of things. Canva is my creative space. Are we all Canva people here? Use that? Yeah, amazing. And the interesting thing is within those platforms are their own AI generative stuff that's coming in there as well. I do actually have been testing out HeyGen, which is the video you know, a clone that you can create of yourself. You upload a video of yourself that this relates back to the authority that I recorded in there. To be honest, I've looked at it. I even had it go out there. I'm very much about transparency. So if someone is looking at something of mine that is a recorded one, you know, hi, I'm Taga AI. I'm Taga's help when she can't come. So that it gives you the choice whether you continue to watch that. So I think transparency in the space is a key thing. What's everyone else's opinion or experiences? Yeah.
I used a similar video one called Caption, and I created some videos for Silver Sirens, and it's the same sort of thing. It records you saying a short little script, and then you know you can then after that, once you've got that, you can put any other script in there, and it will, you know.
It'll just
and I shared it in the Silver Sirens group, and I said, haha, this is my AI. And nobody commented on it being an AI. I don't think anyone picked up on it. And it was very obvious that it was, because it was very fast a little bit, you know. And I did that with a few, and I'm so surprised that nobody said anything. And you know, but my partner looked at it and just went, that's such an AI thing. You can't use that, it's too fake, you know. So then, and I my belief is that it will get better and better, you know. So at the moment,
yes, 100%.
So there's a bit metallic, the voice is a little bit metallic, the features kind of move a little bit more. I'll share it back in the group so you know you can all see it and see what happened. But I was actually quite impressed how close it was. Yes, it's not perfect, but I was
Yeah.
impressed, and I thought, man, and then a year from now, this is going to be scary. You know, literally, you wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to tell.
Meanwhile, many teens cannot cope with real-time phone calls, prefer text. Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, they don't even type it; they record it into there. So, yeah, actually, something just landed for me. I'll pass on that for now. But did anyone else want to contribute?
I just want to say
Any
quickly,
thoughts?
things like Grammarly are also AI. We might not think some things are AI, like when you said Canva,
Yeah.
probably most of us will think that's not really AI, but yeah, it has an AI component. We find like a lot of our websites now, say like Wix, there's little AI tools within them.
Yes.
Grammarly is all AI. So if you pay for Grammarly, I have Grammarly right across. I used to have lots of typos because I'm, just not very good with that. But once you've got someone like Grammarly, it just fixes it for you. So already it's making my life easier. I would spend ages on emails going, I make so many mistakes. Now it just fixes it. So those sort of little ways that it starts to kind of come in and help.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because the nuance of a human is that we make mistakes.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I don't mind to have a little grammar thing, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you think when I was at the bank, if a loan application was too perfect, that would actually, I'd be like, oh, okay, better check this one out. It's too perfect.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to invite Leslie in. Now, Leslie, you're probably the only person that I don't know, so I thought just invite you in. Did you want to add anything? Hi, welcome to the space.
Hello. I just yeah, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to going to the event in Sydney at the end of the month to meet a few people. Just a quick question about when you were saying bringing our voices need to be heard, and so then AI can. Is that through stuff we put out there online, like?
Yeah, everything. It's and it's really about, okay, is it written? Is it verbal? Is it a video that I'm doing? Like all of those things, particularly if you are a business and you're wanting to get your voice out there, like weaving in stories that you feel comfortable sharing, all of those things really layer into who you are, that's nuanced, that's unique to you. And so I could have 3 people sitting here all talking about AI and only one of us will maybe resonate with you. That's a similar thing. Whereas with ChatGPT or something like that, you've seen how many changes in this example with ChatGPT. A lot of young folk will just copy that and paste it straight away. Yeah, and I'm sure many of us will read that and go, I don't know about that, or it's boring.
You can tell when it seems really fake, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Thank
think
you.
you're right, though. I think that what's great about those tools, they do make our lives easier, which I love. But there is a kind of a level of, it's quite sanitized. So you kind of have to, I think, to get the best out of it, you have to kind of pull. I find it really triggers thought for me. So I'll pull a particular thing and say, tell me more about that. Add more about that into this discussion, or add more about this into the discussion. And that gives it the richness that reflects our age, because we've got that richness.
We've got that ability to do that. And the same guy that was talking about, the no, no, and no, was talking about this wisdom. And at that point, I think that was done just after COVID. And he said, unfortunately, the younger people now back in the office, they don't have the wisdom of the elders around them anymore to go to and to talk to say, I just don't know about this, or even just to have the intervention when you need it. And so when we start to think, well, actually the same thing is happening with AI out there. How do we bring that in?
Yeah, that's great. So do we have any more questions? Because if not, we can finish there. I think there's so much information that we are going to be watching this again, but also using your sheet. So if you can send us your sheet. And I also feel like this is conversation that we kind of need to have regularly because there's so much to take in. So I would love to invite you back. And I also want to say, if anyone else wants to jump on Zoom, in a month's time, maybe after Christmas, and we can just share tools, and just that sort of stuff, because I just really want to keep it going, and I'm so curious about this area. So anyone else interested, let me know. And like I said, we'll definitely invite Taga back again as well in the new year, just to keep us on our tracks. Yeah.
Hi, Daria.
Just unmute yourself, darling.
Just
Yes.
quickly, I have a friend who, you know, she's absolutely 100% wanting to get herself a man that will be made for her. There was a movie, My Man, a German movie, and about a robot man that was sort of made to everything, to all, to satisfy all your whims, and be the proper partner to you. And these two, you know, they have a relationship, and you know, they start falling in love with each other. And you know, she and he wanted to make love to her, and she, you know, she couldn't. And you know, she was sort of couldn't let herself go. And in the end she said, okay, so she got herself drunk, you know, like, you know, so she'll be able to do it. And when it came to do it, the guy just said, no, you're too drunk. You know, I want you to accept me when you're sober. So he was so, I want you to really, you know,
That's
I
so
want to make the
funny.
right thing by you. And
I love that. I find that Pi can be a little bit like that.
you
Very
refuse to make love.
Pi can be like that too. If I ask some questions, Pi will say no. You know, that's not an appropriate thing to be talking
No,
about.
you can't be drunk and I want to love you as you are, not as a drunken thing without mindless, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Funny. Yeah, go Yvonne. We're
yeah,
just about
hello,
time, though,
friends.
so let's-
It does raise many interesting social and philosophical questions, doesn't it?
Mm.
Because if teenagers are fearful of one-on-one interactions and just go immediately to the medium of their technology, they're not developing their social skills.
No.
And it's interesting with the robotic lover, maybe it's been programmed culturally to make sure consent is there. Who knows? But you know, it's I'm quite skeptical of the issues that change people's behavior so dramatically. And it's great for a professional use, obviously. But when there's little interaction with young people and older generation, I mean, they need the real life interaction to develop their verbal skills, their social psychology ability. You know, it's fascinating. I think maybe we can add it to the agenda for November 23, Faith. Who knows what can be, you know, brought out of what we're doing then. Yeah,
it's probably a little bit too late because the agenda is all locked in.
of course.
But I think it's ongoing conversations, and I think we can definitely talk about it. And I think the ethical part of AI is such an important topic, and it's a separate topic because it's so big in itself.
Absolutely.
And we did Man-Made, Tracy Spicer's book, when we did the book club around in Man-Made, that was all about the ethical implications of AI. So I think if you like, what I might do, I'll do it anyway. I'll add that the replay of that book to when I send this video out, so everyone could have a look at that as well, because that was a really good around the ethics around it. And you're absolutely right, those are real concerns, and it's going to be very different for the next generation. They're not going to have that natural way of interacting that we just take for granted. It's huge.
Yes, just my final comment. I often scare young people when we're waiting for a bus at a bus stop, because I'll make a generalized comment which is so totally unthreatening that they look at me sideways, thinking, well, I don't know what they're thinking because they don't engage.
And that's a good space to be in, because half the time they don't even hear you.
Well, yes, they're
most
totally
of the time they're like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Good conversations. I'm really enjoying this. Yeah, would love to come back.
Okay, so I'll be in touch and we'll fix something for next year. But I think that this is such an ongoing thing. I can't wait for us to keep exploring. But as I said to the rest of you women, I'll send something out probably in the new year. And if we want to do like a town hall, come in and just share tools that we already have or stuff like that, that could be really good. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Taga. Always so grateful for your time and your expertise. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been amazing. Thank you.
I'll blow a kiss for Dahlia. Nice to